Hello and welcome to our Fill Your Cup live stream event for Giving Tuesday. You are joining us for our self-care mini moments for family caregivers. My name's Ari Cohen. My pronouns are she, her, hers, and I'm the programs manager with Families for Depression Awareness. I will be helping to co-facilitate today's program, and I would love for my co-facilitator to introduce herself.
Thanks, Ari. My name is Gwen Gulick, and I am a mom of a teen and a tween. I am a self-employed small business owner, and I am a proud volunteer FFDA board member as well. So excited to be here today.
Yay, thank you, Gwen. So Gwen and I have been working hard behind the scenes to bring this program for our adult caregivers who support a loved one, whether that's a spouse, a child, an adult, or you're an adult child with a parent that you're supporting. And we wanted to bring this program because caregiving is stressful and time consuming. So we wanted to make sure that our caregivers have little mini moments that they can take care of themselves all throughout the day. We encourage you to take out a pen and paper if you can, because our goal today is that everyone leave with a big list of different strategies that you can use throughout your self-care management. So now that you know a little bit about Gwen and myself, let me tell you a little bit about Families for Depression Awareness. We are a national nonprofit based in Massachusetts, and our mission is to help families recognize and cope with depression and bipolar disorder to get people well and prevent suicides. We know that depression and bipolar disorder affect the whole family. Think about a pebble when it hits a stream and the ripples start to come out. That's how depression and bipolar disorder work. These diagnoses not only affect the person living with it, but the folks in the family now may have to take on extra responsibilities that they didn't used to. They might have to be emotionally or financially supporting their loved one in a different way, and this can be incredibly taxing. So, as an organization, we provide resources, upstream education, not only to help caregivers and family members support their loved ones, but also to know how to support themselves. So today and you can also find the information on our website at familyaware.org. So now that you know a bit about us, we would love to know what your level of stress is. From a scale of 1, I'm very calm, I'm zen, maybe you just did yoga with Gloria, so you're really in that mode, or 10, I am burnt out, I'm at the end of my rope, and I am tired. We'd love to hear from you in the comments section, just on a scale of 1 to 10, how you're feeling today. And Gwen and I can see the comments, luckily, so we will look there and pause for a moment.
Ari, where are you today?
Oh, I'm probably at an 8. Presenting's a little stressful. Before this, I was definitely at that 3 or 4 with the calm feeling with Gloria, but it skyrocketed as soon as we went live. How about you, Gwen?
I'm probably pretty close to that. I was going to say a 7, so.
Yeah. Susan's a 4. Val's a 5. She's behind the scenes, and that's pretty wild for Val since she's running so much today. Thank you, Val. Are you seeing any other ones, Gwen?
Oh, I'm seeing Christina is homeschooling her children today, so she's at least a 5.
Ah.
I can relate to that. All right.
Awesome. Well, thank you everyone for checking in. And we encourage you throughout the day, as Gloria did as well, to continue checking in with yourself. This is a strategy when you do any self-care tool that you always want to check in before. Where am I at on a scale of 1 to 10? If you weren't exactly sure how to know how much stress you're holding, we have a new caregiver stress test that can help you tune in to see how you're feeling. On our website at familyaware.org/fillyourcup, you can learn more about the entire giving campaign, our Giving Tuesday campaign. But if you'd like to just access the stress test, you can go to familyaware.org/stress-test. We would like for you to stay on for the whole program with us, but we'll share that link at the end as well.
Great. So before we start talking about self-care and tips and ideas to help take care of your mental health and your physical health, we thought we should start with defining what stress is. And people often will say that they feel stressed, but it's not an emotion. It's really truly a physical response that your body has It's your body's way of responding to any kind of demand that's placed on it. And when you respond, you're actually having a chemical reaction happen in your brain, and you're hardwired to either flee, fight, or freeze. So those in the moment responses to stress can be very dramatic. What's a little tricky is that people tend to think of stress as a negative thing, but there's a lot of stress placed on people even during happy occasions. So if you have a new baby, if you're moving to a new home, starting a new job, you may find, surprisingly, you feel very stressed and anxious, even though it's something that you're excited about. The other thing that's happening for everyone right now is the stress of COVID. So things that used to be very commonplace for you may have become stressful. So going to the grocery store, helping your kids with their schoolwork, trying to work yourself if you're working from home and have a lot of new distractions, or if you're someone who is commuting into work and still going out and being someone on the front lines and dealing with the public, this can be a very stressful time, in addition to the usual life stressors that we face. We can go to the next slide, Ari. The other thing that we wanted to kind of keep in mind today is that for family caregivers, there are additional stressors that others maybe don't have to deal with. And so if you're caring for a loved one with a mental health condition, there are a number of different things that you may be dealing with that you probably never expected to be dealing with, and you also maybe don't feel equipped to deal with. So I jotted down a quick list of questions just to kind of think about how people might be experiencing this. So, are you unsure how to help your loved one? Is it difficult to get them to participate in therapy or take their medication if that's part of their treatment plan? Do you feel like you're walking on eggshells because of their moods and trying to predict how they're going to respond to you? Are you maybe picking up more of the household chores and the load around keeping your household running than you normally would do? Are you worried about your loved one's safety? Or do you feel isolated, or that your friends and family don't really understand what it is that you're dealing with on a day-to-day basis? So I'm curious if any of these things hit home with you. Those are all common challenges that family caregivers that we work with face. In my own personal experience, I have a son who's dealt with depression and anxiety for most of his young life, and now he's a teenager. And a couple of years ago, his anxiety and depression had gotten so bad that it was very difficult for him to get to school. So I never knew from one day to the next if it was going to be a day that I could get him up and out of the house and on the bus, or if it was a day that he was going to say he just couldn't do it and he was going to need to stay home. At the time, I was working full time, so this created a great deal of stress because I never knew what my day would look like, if I needed to work from home or if I needed to find other childcare, to be at home with him while I was gone. And what ended up happening over time is that my body started to have a really physical reaction. Before I even got to his door, I would be walking down the hall. I would feel my stomach tense up, my muscles in my neck and shoulders would get tight. I would sometimes start to hyperventilate a little bit because I just was so ready for what I felt was going to be a tough start to my day. So the point is, over time, that really does start to affect your long-term health. If this is a stressful situation that happens one time, having that big burst of cortisol and adrenaline in your body is going to make you feel tense, and it might be tough to kind of catch your breath and regroup. But if you have that kind of stress day after day after day, you're going to start to see long-term health effects that can show up in so many different ways that you maybe don't even think are related to your stress. So we all know about, breaking out with a pimple if you're stressed, but you may not realize that it will affect your ability to concentrate. It can make you get sick more frequently. You may have worried and anxious thoughts kind of pervading your brain. You may have trouble sleeping. Um, we also hear about digestive problems, so all kinds of different, you know, sickness and illnesses that kind of come up. And another thing that's happening right now is people are turning to alcohol, smoking, and drug use as a way to cope with stress. And we hear from our clinicians on our advisory board that this has become much more common during COVID. So it's just important to be in touch with your body, to understand if you're feeling stress and be aware that it may be affecting you more broadly in terms of your total health.
Yeah, we can use these as cues for ourselves. The reason we're starting off talking about self-care and really starting with stress is that stress is a cue that we need to be taking care of ourselves. And so we want you to balance just the general everyday, I'm going to practice maintenance for my own well-being, but also noticing I might need to be adding in extra pieces right now because things are just too hard. And sometimes things turn into more than stress. They can look like depression and bipolar disorder. And if you're tuning in today, you're probably very aware of that. So, we as an organization really want caregivers to be taking care of themselves as well. So, if your loved one's in therapy, but you've never considered going to therapy, we really recommend that. And you don't have to wait till it gets to a level of feeling your own depression or you're at burnout. You can start now and start developing skills and get support and have your own person that can help manage how do I respond to my loved one today, or I'm just so burnt out I don't even know what to do for myself. So if you've not looked into this before, recommend looking at our website. The links down below, familyware.org, help someone. You can also just go to our main website, familyware.org, and it's one of the big um, tabs on there that you can find for helping different folks. But for yourself, you can start with your primary care physician to ask for a referral. They might already have clinicians that they work with. You can look for a licensed therapist on websites like Psychology Today or using the behavioral lifeline on your insurance card or behavioral line on your insurance card. Or maybe you want to start in your spiritual community with a spiritual counselor or a leader who might know more about your community. But it's also important to recognize that if you or someone you know is experiencing suicidal thoughts, that the amount of pain that you are in exceeds the coping skills that you have available to you. It is urgent that you are not alone and that you don't leave this person alone. We recommend calling a therapist, your psychiatrist, 911, or going to a local emergency room. If 911 or an emergency room does not feel accessible to you, you can also call 211. It's a regional call center and ask where you can get a mental health evaluation that is outside of an ER kind of system. So, with that, we are wondering how do you all cope with stress? We're going to pivot into our brainstorming portion in a moment and practice some different self care. But we'd love to hear from you, healthy and unhealthy ways. How are you dealing with the everyday? And if your answer is I'm not, I promise if you look a little bit deeper, there's something that you're doing to get by every day. So, to start, I've definitely been binging a lot more television lately, which can be healthy sometimes, but I notice on hour 4 or 5 that I probably should get up and stretch. But on the healthy side of things, I hula hoop for exercise. So, I've been doing that pretty consistently. It's playful and fun. And so that's been good. How about you, Gwen, as we wait for comments to come in?
I didn't know that you hula hooped. That's hilarious. I love that.
Thank you.
Um, I have found I have a core group of women friends, and we've been doing a Zoom call every Wednesday night to just check in. Sometimes we're so tired that it's only a half an hour, but it's been a really fun kind of way to just touch base with other moms. So that's been one thing I've done recently. And then I love to sing. I'm not the best singer in the world, but I love to sing. It makes me feel great, and it really gets your lungs breathing and everything. So I will often sing along with. I listen to music all over the place, especially in my car, and I embarrass my children because I sing so loudly. But that's
I
one of
love
my
that.
good coping with stress. On the flip side, I definitely am a stress eater, so I have to be careful about that. Be mindful of when I'm eating out of stress versus hunger.
Yeah, and it's important to balance sort of how do we know when it's an unhealthy coping skill so we might be able to tune into some of these other practices that leave us feeling a little bit better on the other side.
Yeah.
Um, and we saw some great comments come in. So we saw before we on the screen was exercise was essential, which was great, and then oh yeah, non-negotiable, which is perfect and good to know. And if you remember, Gwen talked about the chemicals in our body. Well, exercising helps us move those chemicals through, so it helps create and lift that stress from the fog from the stress that we get.
Susan shared petting and walking the dogs is one way that she copes with stress. That's a great suggestion.
Oh, especially with COVID making it difficult to hug our loved ones, having that animal, and if you can't have an animal, something soft just to cuddle, that is such a helpful piece. Thank you, Susan.
Devin also shared listening to music, and I feel like that's such a positive thing to do. Um, and it can be really easy too. You can listen to things on YouTube, or if you have an app that plays music, there's lots of different ways to get access to lots of different types of music.
My friends and I started a self-care Spotify playlist. So we actually have been brainstorming songs that lift us up, lift our moods, make us feel good. And we've been adding to that list throughout the last few months. And that's been a really fun way to sort of encourage my friends to do some of their own self-care, but just to, in the moment, self-care for me has been shifting the actual songs I listen to. I notice I tend to listen to a lot of negative, sad music, which is fine, but not right before a training or right before work where it puts me in a difficult mood. And so I found that even coming home to a loved one after a tough day, if I put on some uplifting music, that actually helps as well.
That's great. I have a playlist on my Spotify called Happy Gwen, and it's songs that I'm like, oh, I love this song. Every time I hear one, I add it. So it's a great idea.
I love that. I also noticed we didn't get any comments from folks admitting to any unhealthy practices that they do, which I know can feel a little vulnerable. So we'll pause an extra moment to see if anyone wants to be brave and share maybe an unhealthy strategy that they notice. But as Gwen and I shared, sometimes maybe eating too much or too little can come up for us, or binge watching TV a little too much. In other trainings, I've heard folks say like a glass of wine, which we know in moderation, a glass of wine's okay. But as we've talked about with COVID, being aware of if that's turning into too much. Let's see if any comments come in real quick, and otherwise we'll move on. Nice. There's a girl power playlist. I love that too. All right, folks. Well, thank you. As we encourage, if there are unhealthy coping mechanisms that sort of came to mind, I want to recognize that we all find a strategy that works for us in the moment. It helps us survive. So any strategy that helped you get through a moment is wonderful. But if at the end of the day it's not effective and doesn't leave you healthier in the long run, 2 glasses of wine from Jessica Mailman. Thank you for being brave. It's just important to be tuning in with yourself. It's a little bit of humor there. It's over listening to books. I think that's okay. But tuning in just to make sure we're picking the strategies that actually fill our cups up and aren't, draining us over and over again. Anything to add there, Gwen?
I think we covered it.
Great. So let's talk about what self-care is now that we've talked about some of our strategies and how it can help. And I'm hoping no one can hear any of my background noise. But self-care is an intentional strategy, practice, ritual, exercise. It's something that we do on purpose that leaves us feeling more satisfied, more relieved, joyful, and helps us build a life worth living. If we think about maintenance on a car, sometimes we do something when our car breaks down, but we also do preventative things like change our oil so that our car can run smoothly. Well, this is what we want to do with self-care. We want to practice self-care all of the time so that we're doing it and we can our brains can jump to that in our stress moments. As we mentioned before, stress can sort of create that fight, flight, freeze, and a new response, fawn, that is being talked about as well. And that is our autopilot, we call response. When we think about our car, where it just sort of goes in the lane that we've been traveling in. Well, if we're always drilling in these lanes, our brains are going to jump to that. So if we're always thinking negative thoughts, that's where our brains are going to go. But if on purpose we practice these rituals, they can help us in these stress moments go to a different place that serves us. Or once the stress is tuned down a little bit, see what else might be coming up. And in our next hour at 2 p.m., we are going to have some other strategies that you can try as well. So that's what I had on self-care. Did you want to add anything there, Gwen?
I think the piece that really got us going when we started thinking about this session was people like to talk about self-care as something like going to the spa or going to a yoga class and all and there are lots of wonderful things to do. But for many of the caregivers we know, their days are so packed that they really don't have time to go spend an hour doing something. So we really wanted to think about um, what are like really quick things that people can do that you can fit into your day, even when it's a really full day already. So that's what we'll focus on.
Thank you for adding that. And I'd add that we have a really great blog on our website around boring self-care if you'd like to spend more time around that. But the idea that self-care isn't always glamorous. It's not always, the spa day, as Gwen said. It can be something like making our bed. Not the most exciting. Maybe we don't even really want to do that. But when I come back to my room at the end of the day and see my bed is made, it makes me a lot more happy to get into it. Or maybe you don't care if your bed's messy, but it's all different and not one size fit all. So it's important that we spend time individually knowing what self care can look like. But what I love is collectively brainstorming and collectively sharing what we do for self care because we can inspire one another. So before we go to our brainstorming session, we wanted to offer one self care mini moment strategy that we can all do and do it together, which is our breath, focusing on our breath. Um, Breathing's free. We all have access to it for the most part. And it's something that can really help with moments of stress. When we experience that cortisol, that adrenaline flood over our body, we're no longer in the driver's seat. Our brain, parts of our brain shut off, and these basic parts of our brain take over where we just act. So, taking a deep belly breath, a self calming breath, can help us get grounded and be more present for ourselves and for others. So, imagine you're coming home from work or you're coming home after grocery shopping. It's been a stressful day. You open the door, and before you can get your coat off, before you can get your shoes off, your child, your spouse is barking orders at you. I need this done, or I'm having such an awful day. No clue how your day has been, but they are demanding of your time. You can feel that stress response rising. You can feel that bubbling in your stomach or your muscles tensing, like we talked about. And this is where you can notice I could take a deep breath for myself. Before I say a word to this person, I'm just going to take a deep breath. So we're going to invite everyone to, if possible, place both feet firmly on the floor. Notice that your feet are grounded. Remind yourself that you are in the room, that your feet are on the ground, and that you are safe and taken care of. I want you to start to become aware of your breath. If you have trouble noticing where your breath is, you can put your hand on your stomach, right below your belly button where you see in the image, or a hand on your chest. And your goal is to breathe deep into your belly, like a balloon, filling up, not coming from your chest, but deep down into your belly. So we're going to breathe in on a count of 3, in through our nose and out through our mouths. And before we breathe in, I want us all to push out all that air that might be stuck in our lungs if possible. So let's breathe out together and breathe in. 2, 3. Breathe out. 2, 3. Breathe in. 2, 3. Breathe out. 2, 3. One more time. Breathe in. 2, 3. Breathe out. 2, 3. And before you think about anything else, I just want you to check in and think, how am I feeling right now in this moment? And hopefully you're feeling a little bit more calm. I'm speaking a little more slowly, which is always nice. But in that moment, when you're in the argument, just taking that deep breath can help you get more regulated, show up for yourself. And with a child or a spouse, you can role model and say, hold on, before I respond, let me just take a deep breath. do you want to do it with me? It just helps me feel more grounded. Not the same as saying, hey, calm down, take a breath. Those are different messages. But these are little gifts that we can give to ourselves in any moment. Gwen, anything you wanted to add?
Just that idea of staying tuned into your body throughout the day can really help, because sometimes you don't realize that you're starting to feel anxious, and so taking a breath can head that off.
Yeah, and if you are someone who focusing on your breath is a little bit more, it's not helpful to you. Just putting your feet on the ground like we did in the beginning, really feeling your feet and reminding yourself and saying, I am safe, can be as effective. Looking around the room and naming very specific things that you see. I see the desk in front of me. I see my cat with its soft fur, can really help ground you and just remember that you're okay and present in the moment. So there's definitely different strategies that work.
For sure. So we have started to really work on a list of self-care tips and ideas for people. And this is just a few of the ideas that Ari and I have come up with. We are working together to write a blog post that will be posted on familyaware.org later this month or in January. And I've kind of challenged us. I think we should come up with 101 tips for mini moments of self-care. And so we thought we could use today to really talk through some of the ideas that we have come up with so far, but also to invite all of you on the line today to contribute your ideas, what works for you, things that you think would be great for other people to try. Like Ari said before, you get a lot out of listening to what other people do and getting new ideas for things you can try. What works for everybody is different. What works for you one day might not be the same thing that works for you on another day. And so we wanted to just open it up and have people type in ideas that they have for self-care, either things you do already or things you have been thinking about trying. And meanwhile, while you're doing that, we will start to talk through some of the ideas that we use ourselves and some of the ideas that we've come up with on this list so far. Ari, do you want to start with sharing a couple of things that you do?
Yeah, the first is water has been essential. I've learned that sleep is really dehydrating. So I've tried to make a personal goal of drinking water right when I get out of bed instead of going for coffee first, because coffee is also dehydrating. So just trying to give back to my body. I don't stick with it all the time, but I ended up investing in a water bottle that has a reminder to be present. I don't know that you can see it really. But even just looking at it and having that visual has been really helpful. I also have pictures of people I love all over my desk, and that's been really helpful during the workday just to look up and see people that make me feel supported and remember that there's more going on than what I'm just working on, and that keeps me grounded. How about you, Gwen?
Oh, that's great. I have photos too. It's funny. Because I'm sharing my desk with my kids for homeschooling, remote schooling, I don't have things out on the desk anymore. So I have like this drawer of, like I have last year's holiday card of my kids, things that make me happy to look at. So I sometimes will pull those out while I'm waiting for a call to start. I also started during the period of time when things were really, really stressful for our family. I started this habit of just taking 10 breaths in bed in the morning before I get up. And it seems silly, it's only 10 breaths, but I would do it and try to calm my brain before I started whirling with everything I had to do that day. And I would do it what a lot of yoga instructors do, will be to invite you to set an intention for your day. So I would just pick a word at the end of my 10 breaths. How do I want to go into the world today? Or what do I need today? So it might be strength or energy or calm. And I tried to do that every morning. And it really did help kind of change the way I started the day. So that it would take me maybe, a minute, but it was a good minute spent for sure.
I love that. I also set intentions. I'm a pen to paper kind of person, so I do mine in a journal, but I know lots of folks that just sit in bed at the end or the beginning of their day to sort of set that intention or look back at sort of what they're grateful for. I see some tips coming in from folks, but please feel free to chat in the comments what you do for mini moments of self care, or as we brainstorm, just things you might try. So I saw Susan write, clear off your workspace. So maybe you need a little bit more room and it would feel good. I actually did that this weekend before coming back to work after the long break, which felt really good. So thank you, Susan.
I cleaned off my computer screen this morning and found it very satisfying to like look at my computer and not have it be grungy like it was. So I was thinking that's a pretty quick thing, but it felt like I was taking care of my space. I love that
Yeah.
it's clearing your workspace.
And then we hear from Val, spending time with our kids through joyful moments, not just when we're trying to bark orders at them and get them to do exactly what we need, but also being able to pause, tune down, and be a child again and just play and be creative and savor those moments. I definitely miss my niece. I'm also aware that she's so over being on a video. She's 6 years old. It's not what's good for her. I might want it. She doesn't want it. So my mini self-care moments are just to look at a picture of her or to text her mom and see how she's doing, but to feel connected in that way.
That's great. Susan typed in that she likes to hold a smooth rock. So to have something tactile kind of that you can hold on to, that's a great idea.
Yeah, and those fidget spinners that were really popular for a time, or paper clips when I'm in a meeting and didn't think to bring my rock. Those are really great strategies. And I love the stones too, because if you believe in sort of the different stones do different things, you can pick a stone based on what is important to you, or they have stones that have like engravings on them. So that could be a more special practice if you needed it to be.
Yeah, things you can touch is such it opens up a lot of other ideas. I think you know, I think we have on this list comfy socks or slippers, but like any kind of soft, cozy feeling clothing or blankets or just being able to wrap up in something, especially in this colder weather that we're dealing with in the Boston area right now, can feel like you're taking very good care of yourself when you do that sort of thing. Um, Jessica writes in, my husband is much better than me with cleaning, and he must have the house and kitchen clean on Sunday night to start the week off right. That's a nice idea to just start fresh on Monday morning and not have anything hanging over you. And Christina's sharing that she calls her sister to talk about silly reality shows. That's a fun idea.
Yeah, calling someone on a ride home, if that's safe for you to do, or just finding a 5 to 10 minute window. It doesn't need to be a half hour, an hour call if you're all tired of being on the phone or having something. But I often find that even when I start that 5 minute call, it does turn into longer because I just enjoy my time. But I've also heard from folks that they're running out of things to say to one another. So, not such a mini moment of self care, maybe a longer piece, but playing a game online virtually, whether it's an escape room or using Jackbox or a free game like Among Us, but finding different ways to make Zoom more fun and enjoyable can be helpful.
Yeah, we have those conversation starters for the dinner table, and we have like there's a box for questions to ask the grandparents too, that you can get or look up online. And sometimes having those conversation starters is a way to make the conversation more fun and relaxing instead of high pressure stakes of like, what am I going to say next?
I love that. Oh yeah, I love laughing. I think we said sing before too, and we talked about that. But just finding like a little blooper video on YouTube, or if you're a TikTok person, you're into that now, or you're trying to keep up with your kids, finding the videos that make you laugh, or a meme, or a comic strip, or just something that you enjoy. We heard from one of our caregivers recently in the Far Away webinar that we did, or caregiving from a distance, that she sends her son a comic every day just to try to make him laugh, and that's been a good way for them to connect.
Yeah, we talked about pets before. I think our dog's sole role in life is to make all of us laugh. So pets can be a source of humor also, and definitely the kids can do that. It's laughing is very therapeutic, I think.
Yeah. Any other comments coming in about mini moments? I see some really great elements that might be a little bit longer, which is always great to think about as well. But any other sort of mini moment, shorter duration, like 1 minute to 5 minute? activities. Um, Journaling, I think, can be hard for some folks to think about like a prompt. And one of the things that used to happen for me was that I only wrote on negative days. So I have a goal to write at least every day how I'm feeling and 3 things I'm grateful for. And if that's all I write, that's fine. But it's been a helpful practice when I don't really have the 15 minutes to sort of talk about what's really going on in my brain.
Yeah, I mean, one thing that comes to mind for me is there are so many apps now to prompt you to do different things like gratitudes or meditation or just, to try to calm your mind. So everyone has to find what works for them, but having a reminder on your phone, a prompt to ask you what are you grateful for today? What's something positive that happened in your day? Sometimes it helps to have a little bit of external prompt to do those things because it's hard to maybe remember on your own.
Yeah. I don't think I see it on here, but I just got a hunger pang, so I thought of eating a snack as like a little self-care moment. And I've also recently learned how to make my snacks more protein filled so that it feels like I'm nourishing my body versus sometimes I just want to eat the item because it looks good to eat. So I've been sort of balancing that of at my desk, I now have little trail mix bags because I noticed I'm not getting up during my workday as much as I used to. So I'm trying to notice maybe where things are shifting with either COVID or just life in general and how I can sort of show up with those mini moments as well ahead of time. So sometimes these mini moments take a little bit of planning ahead.
Yeah. I think another thing that is true right now is because people are not out and about the way that they normally are. I think it's been easy to kind of let your own, grooming go because nobody's really going to see if wash your hair and style it every day or whatever the things are that you normally do. So I think trying to work some of those things in to your schedule, to just take care of your own physical self can be a treat, whether it's that you're actually going to put on real clothes one day instead of sweatpants, or whether it's going to be taking time to brush your hair or take a shower or do the things that maybe it's easy to put off because you're not leaving your house that day. It's not necessary. Those kinds of things can be great self-care too.
Yeah, I recently started setting a timer to brush my teeth. Like I brush my teeth every day, and I know that I saw and remember back of like Nickelodeon, brush your teeth for 2 minutes every day. This thing as a kid as a cartoon. And then I was thinking, I don't think I do the full 2 minutes. So I started setting the timer and realizing there's no way I've been doing the full 2 minutes. So sometimes even just picking a strategy and really paying attention about that hygiene practice can be helpful. But I don't see more comments coming in, so I think we're good to move on to the next slide, Gwen.
So, are you going to talk to this one, Ari, I think?
I can. We can both tag team if I forget anything. But this is right now we're transitioning into different strategies you can use to identify what self care practices you might want to use, how you could fit it into your schedule, or where you might need to develop some more self care strategies. And this self care wheel that comes from the Olga Phoenix project, you can find it at the bit.ly here at SC Wheel or reach out to us and we'll send it directly to you, info@familyware.org. But this wheel, she has a version that is blank that you can fill in, but it's broken up into different aspects of our life, different domains. And so professional, work, physical, that could be our fitness or just any kind of physical connection, psychological, emotional, spiritual, and personal. And it breaks it down so we can think about what strategies we might need to be adding in. So if I have a whole lot under spiritual, but nothing under professional, then maybe I need to brainstorm a little longer under professional and really think about this category. So we like to share the self-care wheel just as another grounding strategy for checking in with yourself, just as a tool if it feels supportive. Anything to add there, Gwen?
Just that I think you may lean on certain areas of the wheel more at different times, at sometimes than others. So it's okay if it shifts around, but it's good to have some options in each area depending on how your days are going.
Absolutely. Yeah, and they can change based on where you are in life. You might have one that says education instead of professional or whatever that looks like for you.
Yeah. So I think part of the challenge people have with these habits. I think everybody knows that they should be doing things, taking care of themselves, but it can be hard to fit them into a busy day. So one of the things we talk about is trying to schedule in when you're going to do some of these activities so that you make it part of your routine and it becomes a habit that you use over time instead of something you do as a one-off. So this is just a sample daily schedule that I kind of stole from my own life. Um, the morning intention, I try to sit and have 1 cup of coffee early before anybody in my house gets up. Otherwise, my coffee gets cold because I run around like crazy and I don't get back to it. I try to take a stretch break during the day. I usually play music sometime in the afternoon and try to get my body moving. I will sometimes squeeze in a walk with a friend. I always play music and things that make me feel up and give me energy when I'm making dinner in the evening. And I try at least one night a week to go to bed by 9 o'clock, which is pretty early in my house. I go to bed before my kids that night so that I get extra sleep one night a week for sure. I also try to think about something fun to put on my to-do list every day so that I'm not just dreading a day of things I have to do, but I have something to look forward to. And I try to remember things like drinking water and taking deep breaths and really listening and being in the moment throughout the whole day so that I kind of am taking care of myself in that way. The tricky part about this is life, and each day does not look different or does not look the same. So you're not going to always have a schedule. It might not make sense for you to be able to set a schedule. So you can think about this a bunch of different ways. You can think about tying your self-care activities that you want to try to create habits around to other habits you already do well. We were just talking about brushing teeth. It might be when you go down and make the coffee every morning while you're waiting for the coffee to brew. It might be at night, after everyone else is in bed, if you want to have some quiet time to do something for yourself. So trying to find different times or moments in the day where you can fit these in. Different things are going to work at different times in your life too. If you're having a day where you're feeling very tired and draggy, it's probably not the day that you're going to want to go for a long hike with the dog, but it might be the day that you step outside on the front porch and just take a deep breath. So thinking about the time framing and thinking about having things that you can do in under 5 minutes and maybe things that are a little bit longer too. And then you have this menu to pull from so that on a given day, you make sure you at least do some of the things that are on your list.
Yeah, so lots of different strategies for supporting. And so maybe you actually write out the schedule like Gwen had, or it's just remembering I could steal that 1 minute here. Or if you pick one strategy and goal, you can set little reminders. So my goal was to get up from my desk and stretch 3 times a day. So I set a little alarm that was a nice sound. It wasn't jarring. And it just reminded me to get up and move a little bit. And then I started to try to structure different ideas for different amounts of time. So maybe for 15 minutes, I can pull out a coloring page and just sort of absent-mindedly color, but I'm not going to be able to do that in 1 minute. So what's realistic for me there? So breaking it down into those time chunks was really helpful. And not pictured here, but another strategy was developing this list of things I can control and things I can't control. And that also helped me unhook a little bit of I can't control when that thing happens. So this is my strategy for what I could do and sort of unwinding there.
That's great.
Excellent. So we would.
Sorry, Ari, I was just going to say Jessica chatted, and I love the idea of having a quiet coffee before the kids are up. On average, I reheat my tea 3 times before I get to drink it.
Yeah, I'm glad you're able to reheat it. It sounds like a tea warmer might be in your future there. So thank you, Jessica. And with that, we would love if everyone can make a commitment to at least one self-care mini moment strategy that they're going to start utilizing more often. And we suggest that you pick a day and time to do that so that you have, in a sense, a plan to move forward and that strategy can come to life for you. So if you'd like to share in the comment section what you're going to commit to do and by when, we would love to hear that. And then we have a couple more slides before we start to wrap up, and we'll have time for questions at the end if there are any as well. So we'll just pause for a moment to see if folks come in with anything, but I am recommitting to drinking my water. I have totally fallen off that in the last couple weeks, and also making my bed. Those were my own personal strategies. I haven't been making my bed at all. I did this weekend, and it just felt so much better to come home to. So my plan is to drink water every morning, right when I wake up, and to make my bed. How about you, Gwen?
I have been very busy with work things and family things this past week, so I have not been getting out and walking the dog as much as usual. So I want to get back to she's a very relaxed dog, so she doesn't get too upset if she doesn't have walks, which is a problem. So I want to get back to getting her out every day, whether it's even if it's a short walk, just to get out and walk every day makes me feel better.
Excellent. Well, if we see any comments pop in, we will pause and show those on screen, but we'll just keep moving for now. So Gwen, do you want to take on this one?
Sure. So we thought it would be good, after having some time to breathe and take care of ourselves and think about different self-care ideas, to test everybody's level of stress now that we've gone through this program. So if you can do another check-in and chat in what number you are now compared to where you were at the beginning of the session, we thought we would compare.
And we do have a commitment that came in from Susan. Susan is going to try to have a positive attitude about the weather, whatever it happens to be. We're out in New England, so the weather is definitely changing every day. So glad to hear that you have that intention. And then another person, Jessica, did yoga with Gloria this morning. So they're going to commit to doing another session before the end of the week. That's exciting. Glad to hear that program was inspiring. And then by the new year, I commit to carving out some quiet, alone time in the morning before everyone is up so I can settle in for the day. From Valerie. Thank you all.
Great. And it looks like people's numbers have gone down. 2, 3. I think mine has gone down. How about you, Ari?
Yeah, I think I was at an 8. I think I'm now at like a 3 or 4, feeling a lot better.
Yeah, me too.
And Val's back at a 3. Yay. Excellent. Well, thank you all for checking in. And we would love if you can all help us with our Giving Tuesday goal. Our campaign ends on December 6th for our Caregiver Fill Your Cup campaign, where we're asking 1,000 caregivers to commit to their own wellness and take our stress test. You can find that at familyaware.org/stress-test. And I know that some of the links have also been put in the comment section here and are available on our main page on Fill Your Cup. If you know a caregiver and you want to gift them a little bit of self-care check-in time, send them the link to this test and feel free to share it on your own social media. You can find that link to this test on our Facebook, Twitter as well.
And it just takes a few minutes to fill out. I filled it out a few weeks ago, and it's a quick checklist of things. And then you also get ideas of things you can do to help if you are feeling above average stress in your life. So we wanted to also just say that our programs are made possible by contributions from folks like you on the line. It's a big part of keeping the operation running. We have an amazing staff, but it's a very lean team. So please consider making a tax-deductible donation today, particularly because some of the donations made today, many of the donations will be matched by some generous donors who support Families for Depression Awareness. The team does amazing work, and particularly now, it's more important than ever to help support families living with depression and bipolar disorder. So thank you for making a donation if that's something that you can do.
Thank you all so much for being with us today, for taking the time and committing to your own wellness. There's lots of ways to support, and if you're not able to make a financial contribution, we are always looking for new volunteers, folks that want to share their own family story, or even just sharing our resources are tremendous helps to us. So we're going to stay on for the next few minutes just to see if any other questions come on. So feel free if you have questions for Gwen and I about self-care, our own practices, being caregivers, what we ate for breakfast this morning, really any questions, we're here for you.
What did you have for breakfast this morning?
I'm sad to admit nothing because my anxiety tends to make it a little tough when I'm presenting, but I hydrated and I have a plan to have a really filling lunch of leftovers. How about you?
Excellent. Very much the same. I tend to not eat early breakfast, so I'll be having a lovely lunch, I think.
Mm. We got some thank yous, so thank you all as well. We really appreciate you tuning in. We'll wait just 1 or 2 more moments and then we'll end our live cast if no questions come in. Gwen, did you have any stress management supports like this when you were sort of in the thick of caregiving?
I did. I found when my son was going, it was in different outpatient treatment programs. There were a lot of family, like parent groups as part of those treatments. And so I learned a lot from talking with both my son's therapist, but also other parents to find out what worked for them. So I'm still in touch with many of those parents, and we still share tips and ideas with each other because sometimes it's a marathon. So you need to kind of keep your energy and things up over time.
I love that you said that. We have another caregiver video from Rose on our YouTube where she really shares that caregiving is a marathon, not a sprint. And these self-care strategies help us do that. And Gwen, I know that you have multiple hats. Not only are you a board member of us, but you have your own small company that you run and work with interns and all these different elements. So Val has asked a question. How do you manage your stress as a small business owner and a caregiver, especially during COVID with all these extra stressors coming in?
I think I've learned to just prioritize my own health. It's the analogy of the oxygen mask. When I am kind of falling apart, then I can't help anybody else in my household. So it really has helped me to I think about it as like building my strength. That's almost like weight training at the gym. It's trying to build up a center core of emotional strength that allows me to kind of stand firm when the waves hit, because the waves always come and they do pass, but I have to be ready for them. And so that's how I think about it. And so it's everything from saying, not making too many external commitments to do too many different things for other people when I don't have that much bandwidth. I am pretty ruthless about, I don't work on weekends. I protect my time as much as I can with my family, and just try to be mindful of how my body's feeling in a given day, and if I need to take some extra time to be kind to myself. I try to think about I'm sure people have heard this before, like how would I want one of my best friends to treat themselves? And I try to think that way, like what would I say to them right now, and do that for myself.
I love that. And as someone with experience with depression, it does come in waves, and I never know when it's going to come sometimes. Or I thought in high school, like, oh, I'll just get through high school and I'll never be depressed again. What a very naive thought. And so having these strategies and sort of being flexible with them has been really helpful, but also sharing them with my loved ones, letting my mom, my partner, my coworkers know the strategies that work for me, the things that feel supportive and effective has been really excellent. So just having these conversations as a family, I'm sure that since you've made more time to be with them, you have more of an awareness of what feels good for everyone in the family.
Yeah, a funny thing that I just remembered is we went through a program where they talked about behavioral activation, which is basically doing some physical activity to improve your mental state. And it became the biggest joke in our family because even though we all agreed that it was helpful, we just thought it was really funny to call it that. And so it became the biggest family joke, like, we're all feeling a little stressed. I think we need some behavioral activation today. And so we still, I mean, it's been about 3 or 4 years and we still use that. But sometimes you just have to laugh together and kind of acknowledge what's going on with your family, because it's not like what everybody else deals with, and that's okay. It's your reality.
Oh, totally. Totally. I love that. We have
Susan
one.
asked a question too. Um, how has COVID impacted your stress level, and what have you changed to manage it? Do you want to answer that one, Ari?
Oh, that's a big one. I had like a visceral reaction.
Well,
I'm Life has changed tremendously. I think personally, I think of Fred Rogers of Look for the Helpers, and I tend to have spiraling thoughts where things feel really negative, way more negative than it seems for other folks. And so I've really been focusing on looking for the helpers, where the news has been so difficult lately, and it's been tough to feel safe going outside. Really remembering that there's so many people doing wonderful things. I try to focus on that and then follow those people through social media, through my email newsletters, through what I'm watching, all of those sort of small things. But also, just to be honest, talking out loud to myself with a compassionate tone as another kind of mini moment of self care. That because my negative voice is so loud and I'm alone so often, that just saying it out loud, and my therapist has told me to do this, can be really helpful. So, oh, Ari, like that's really hard for you right now, or oh, Ari, like you're doing the best you can. These little mottos that can help us. And I write on my wrist little messages of motivation, and that might not be everyone's favorite strategy. So maybe just write an index. You don't want to have something on your hand, but just to have some kind of motto, like you do with your intentions, that helps me stay grounded. So sometimes it says, "Be present, be kind to yourself, one thing at a time," and just doing that. How about you, Gwen?
those are all great. I love the idea of actually writing something on your wrist and looking at it. I tried those temporary tattoos once and I loved it. It was like a good prompt. But I think for me, I found I really have to limit watching the news or listening or reading the news. I'm a big news watcher because I work in the PR world my whole career, but um, I've kind of made my daily dose about 5 minutes in the evening, and I try to not listen or watch the rest of the day. Um, and I think I've just let go of oh, I wish we could be doing this. I wish we could be doing that. I've kind of just been like, this is just for now. This is how it is. And we'll get back to our regular things next year and just like take advantage of the fact that I can wear sweatpants to work every day. That's fine. Like there are some silver linings, and trying to focus on those instead of what I can't do, because that gets me pretty worked up when I start to fixate there.
And it's been a gentle balance of making the time to grieve, but not sulking in it. And I think having the support, I'm sure, with your group that meets regularly to talk about self care. I also have a self care group of friends that we meet every Thursday just to check in with ourselves. But finding those supports that we can lean on, and during this time, really look for those helpers. So I hope you continue to join us in the programming today. We have more events coming, one at 2 p.m. on creating a craft as a family, with a family doing that together in real-time action. We also have our Fill Your Cup stress test. We're trying to get to that 1,000 stress test mark, and we'll be updating on Facebook as we hit our goals. And please, please give if you can. Any donation helps. $5, $1, $10. It all makes a difference. The first $2,500, $2,500, will be matched by our generous funders, and we would love to go above and beyond that as well. Our goal for this campaign is $5,000. So thank you all for tuning in. These will be available recorded on our YouTube, and thank you, Gwen, for all your work on this program.
You too, Ari. This was great. Thank you for all your hard work. And thanks everybody for joining today.